You look them in the eye. You shake their hand. You nod politely as they speak. But literally, 3 seconds later, a terrifying realization washes over you. You have absolutely no idea what this person's name is. It has vanished, deleted. As if the audio track of your life just skipped a beat, you're still smiling, still holding eye contact, but behind your calm expression, there is frantic panic. You replay the last 10 seconds in your mind, desperate to find the echo of the sound, but there is nothing there, just a blank space where their identity should be. And here's the thing, nobody tells you this exact moment is happening to millions of people right now, at networking events, at dinner parties, at family gatherings. You turn away from the conversation and you think, I'm the only one. You're not. In fact, you're so far from alone in this that the phenomenon has its own name. In neuroscience, it's called the cocktail party effect in reverse. It's the reason therapists, counselors, and psychologists, people trained to remember details about human beings, are often the worst at retaining names. But here's what nobody tells you when you start blaming yourself. You are not broken. You are not rude. You are not developing early onset memory loss, and you absolutely are not uncaring. What just happened in that 3-second window is not a failure of intelligence. It is not laziness. It's something far more sophisticated, and frankly, far more revealing about how your mind actually works. About a century ago, a Swiss psychiatrist named Carl Jung offered an explanation that modern neuroscience is still catching up to. He suggested something that sounds almost offensive when you first hear it. We do not forget things by accident. We forget them because deep down in the shadow of our psyche, we decided not to remember. Think about that for a second. Your brain didn't malfunction. Your brain chose. This isn't about cognitive load or ADHD or scattered attention. This is about something far more personal. This is about your unconscious mind actively protecting you. Your psyche is making decisions about what's worth storing and what should be discarded. And that process says something profound about who you are. But to understand why you specifically struggle with names, while you can remember the lyrics to a song you haven't heard in a decade, or the face of a stranger you passed on the street once, we have to completely reframe how we think about memory. We have to stop looking at memory as a hard drive that randomly malfunctions. We have to start looking at it as a gatekeeper. Carl Jung believed something that sounds almost mystical, but it's rooted in psychology so deep that neuroscience researchers are still validating it. He said, the conscious mind is like a small island in a vast ocean of the unconscious. Everything that lands on that island, every name, every face, every number is allowed there by permission only. The gatekeeper examines every piece of information before granting entry. And if a name doesn't stick, it's not because the island was full. It's not because you weren't paying attention. It's because the gatekeeper threw it back into the ocean, and this is where everything changes. Because the question you should be asking isn't, why is my memory bad? The real question is, why did my unconscious mind reject this person? That's the question that leads somewhere. It begins with something Jung called the persona. The word comes from the Latin term for the masks worn by actors in ancient Rome. Theatre masks. Not who you actually were, but who you were pretending to be on stage. And Jung noticed that most of us are performing all the time. We're all wearing masks. The persona is the face you present to the world. It is the polite employee, the charming guest, the attentive listener. When you're introduced to someone new, your psychic energy, or libido, as Jung called it, and he meant psychic energy, not sexual, is often almost entirely consumed by the maintenance of this mask. You are not actually listening to the other person. You are unconsciously monitoring yourself. Am I standing straight? Is my handshake firm enough? Do I look interested? Is there something between my teeth? Do I seem like I know what I'm talking about? Am I impressive enough? Am I interesting? Your internal monologue is screaming, and while that internal monologue is screaming, your ego is so preoccupied with the performance of meeting someone that it has absolutely no bandwidth left for the actual content of the meeting. The name is external data. Your behavior is internal survival. Here's what's happening in your nervous system in that moment. Your brain is forced to choose. It has finite resources: social survival, maintaining the mask, or data storage. The brain chooses survival every single time. You didn't hear their name because in that moment, you were the only person in the room. This is not narcissism. This is a defense mechanism. And the more anxious you are, the heavier the mask becomes, and the more deaf you become to the outside world. But it goes even deeper than social anxiety or distraction. Jung proposed something that sounded almost supernatural when he first suggested it, but modern psychology is now catching up. He said, "Our interactions aren't just person to person, they're unconscious to unconscious. Before you even speak to someone, before you exchange a single word, something in your deeper mind is already working. You are reading micro-expressions. You are detecting pheromones on a subconscious level. You're sensing energetic shifts in the room. Your intuition, that swift, irrational function of the psyche, is running diagnostics on this person. And if your intuition senses that this person holds no value for your future, or worse, if they represent a threat to your psychological stability, the file doesn't get tagged. The name doesn't get stored. Think about it. You rarely forget the name of someone you are intensely attracted to. You rarely forget the name of someone who terrifies you. You rarely forget the name of someone who just offered you a massive opportunity. You rarely forget the name of someone who hurt you. In those cases, the emotional charge sears the name into your memory. It becomes unforgettable. It becomes carved into your nervous system. The forgetfulness happens in the grey zone, the mundane, the polite, the irrelevant, the person who poses no threat and offers no advantage. The person your intuition has already assessed and filed away as not crucial for survival, Jung would argue, and neuroscience is now beginning to agree that your forgetting is a form of ruthless honesty. Your conscious mind is smiling and saying, "Nice to meet you." But your unconscious is saying something entirely different. It's saying, "This encounter is temporary. This person will not impact my future in any significant way." Wasting neurological energy storing this label is inefficient. Do not waste resources storing this data. This creates a fascinating paradox. The people who are often the most empathetic, the ones who feel the emotional atmosphere of a room most deeply, are frequently the ones who are worst at remembering names. Why? Because they're reading the essence of the person, not the label. A name is just a linguistic tag. It's a social convention. It's arbitrary. John versus Sarah tells you nothing about the soul of the human standing in front of you. But if you're someone who leans toward introverted intuition, you're absorbing the vibe of the person. You're reading their energy. You remember that they looked sad behind their smile. You remember that they felt authoritative. You remember the color of their aura or the weight of their presence. You're processing the deep data, the archetypal reality of the human being. The name is just surface noise. You filtered it out to focus on the signal. This brings us to a concept that makes people deeply uncomfortable. Jung called it the shadow. The shadow is the unknown dark side of the personality. It is everything you deny, everything you reject, everything you wish to hide about yourself. And here's where it gets psychological. Sometimes you forget a name because the person standing in front of you activates a projection of your own shadow. Maybe they possess a trait that you repress in yourself. Maybe they're too loud and you repress your own desire to be heard. Maybe they're arrogant and you fight your own inner arrogance. Maybe they're too soft, too vulnerable, too emotional, and you've spent years building walls against those parts of yourself. Maybe they're too ambitious, too hungry, and that ambition triggers your own jealousy. The irritation or discomfort caused by this unconscious projection causes your mind to recoil. Your psyche wants distance from them. Forgetting their name becomes, and this is important to understand, a passive-aggressive act of the psyche. It's a way of saying, "You do not exist in my world." It's a subtle form of annihilation, of erasure. And here's the most disturbing part. You don't do this on purpose. If you did, it would be conscious rudeness. But because it happens in the unconscious, it feels like an accident. You walk away thinking, "I'm so terrible with names," but the truth might be far different. The truth might be that your shadow simply didn't want to let them in. Think about the last time you forgot someone's name immediately. Was there a moment of discomfort in the interaction, a subtle irritation, a judgment you made without quite knowing why? The person said something that landed wrong. They had a quality that made you feel something you couldn't name. And in that moment, your psyche made a decision. This person does not get stored. This mechanism, as harsh as it sounds, actually protects you. Because here's what Jung understood. If we remembered absolutely everyone we met, our psyche would collapse under the weight of irrelevant connections. Forgetting is a physiological necessity. It's not a deficiency, it's a feature. But, and this is crucial when it happens chronically, when it interferes with your life and makes you feel isolated or incompetent, when it damages relationships or causes embarrassment, it signals something deeper. It signals an imbalance. It suggests that you are either too wrapped up in your own persona, essentially living in a hall of mirrors where no one else can truly enter, or you are so detached from the sensory world, the world of facts and concrete details, that you are floating in a sea of abstractions. The modern world demands we function like computers, filing away data instantly and perfectly. But you are a biological entity. You are a creature with a soul that operates on meaning, not data processing. Your brain is designed for survival, connection, and significance, not for bureaucratic efficiency. Jung noticed something specific about how different personality types experience this phenomenon. He called them sensation types and intuition types. If you're a sensation type, you engage with reality through your 5 senses. You experience the world through touch, sight, smell, taste, sound. And here's what happens when a sensation type meets someone new. You might forget the name, but you will absolutely remember the red tie. You'll remember the smell of their cologne. You'll remember the roughness of their hand, the texture of their jacket. The name is abstract. The sensation is real. You might walk away from a party saying, "I met that guy with the scar on his chin who smelled like tobacco and old books." But you cannot recall if his name was Mark or Matthew. The sensory data overwrote the linguistic data. Your brain prioritized what was real and tangible over what was symbolic and arbitrary. On the other hand, if you're an intuitive type, someone who looks for patterns, future possibilities, abstract meanings, and underlying structures, you're even more prone to this specific type of amnesia. When an intuitive meets a stranger, they're not seeing a person, they're seeing a concept. They're seeing a potential business partner, a potential threat, a mystery to be solved. A pattern that either matches something they've seen before or violates their expectations. They're looking through the person, not at them. They're extracting information on a meta level. The name is just a surface detail, like the color of the wallpaper in a house you're about to buy. You don't care about the wallpaper. You care about the foundation. You care about the structural integrity. You care about whether this property is worth your time and resources. Your brain discards the name because it's focusing on the deep architecture of the human being in front of you. And while your conscious mind is shaking their hand and making polite conversation, your unconscious is running complex pattern analysis. This isn't a flaw. It's how your mind is wired. Sensation types notice sensory details that intuitives miss entirely. Intuitives notice patterns and underlying structures that sensation types walk past without seeing. Neither is better. They're just different operating systems. But understanding which one you are, that changes everything about how you approach this problem. Because the solution for a sensation type is completely different from the solution for an intuitive type. Jung developed another concept that explains why sometimes names disappear for seemingly random reasons. He called it the complex. A complex is an emotionally charged group of ideas or images in the unconscious. It's a cluster of associations that are all tied together by emotion. And sometimes you forget a name not because you're distracted or because the person triggered a projection of your shadow. Sometimes you forget because the name itself triggers a microscopic defense mechanism. Let's say you had a childhood bully named David. You might have forgotten about David. You might think you've healed from that experience. 20 years pass, 30 years. You've built a successful life. You're confident. You've done therapy. You've done the work. Then you meet a wonderful, kind man named David. He's nothing like the bully. He's gentle. He's thoughtful. He's exactly the kind of person you'd want to be friends with. You smile. You shake his hand. You engage in the conversation, and 30 seconds later, his name is gone. Completely gone. And you can't understand why, because consciously you have no emotional reaction to him. He seems perfect. But your unconscious mind heard the sound, David! It associated it with pain or humiliation from the past. And it immediately censored it to protect your conscious state. You're not just forgetting a word, you're avoiding a micro-trigger. The psyche is incredibly protective. It will sacrifice social etiquette to preserve your emotional equilibrium. It will make thousands of micro-decisions per second to keep you safe from re-traumatization. This happens with other names too. Maybe you had a toxic ex named Sarah. Maybe a betrayal by someone named Michael. Maybe a parental figure named Patricia. And now, years later, you encounter new people with those names, and they simply don't stick. It's not about memory capacity. It's about psychological protection. There's also something Jung called the authority complex. He noticed that people often forget the names of those they perceive as superiors, those they secretly envy. If you're introduced to someone who has achieved exactly what you want to achieve, your shadow, that part of you that holds your jealousy, your insecurity, your unlived potential, might act out. By forgetting their name, you're unconsciously bringing them down a peg. You're stripping them of their title. It's a tiny, invisible act of rebellion. You're not doing it to be mean. Your unconscious is doing it to keep your ego from feeling small. It's a way of saying, you aren't that important to me, even if consciously you think they're very important. This is why famous people often report that successful rivals in their field seem to forget their names at industry events. It's not accident. It's the shadow at work. Understanding this changes how you relate to the forgetting, because you can't shame yourself out of it. You can't force yourself to remember through willpower. You have to understand what's being protected. You have to understand what part of you made this choice. This is where Jung goes really deep. He introduced a concept that sounds almost mystical, the collective unconscious. Most psychology at his time was focused on the individual unconscious, your personal memories, your personal trauma, your personal patterns. But Jung proposed something stranger. He said, beneath the personal unconscious, there's a deeper layer that all humans share. It's a collective database. It contains the archetypal patterns of humanity, the universal myths, the universal stories, the universal characters that appear across all cultures, the hero, the shadow, the wise old man, the trickster, the innocent, the lover. And here's what's relevant to forgetting names. Our primitive brain, the part that Jung was fascinated by, is wired for ancient human survival patterns. In the deep history of our species, we didn't use names the way we do now. We didn't say, "Hi, I'm Derek from accounting." We recognized people by their tribe, their role, their energy, the color of their cloak, the scars on their face, the way they moved. Names, arbitrary vocal sounds assigned to faces, are a relatively modern bureaucratic invention. They've been around for maybe 5,000 years in written form. Your brain has been evolving for 200,000 years. Your brain is operating on ancient software. When you struggle with names, you're experiencing a conflict between your ancient biological operating system and the modern software of society. Your brain is saying, I know who this is. I can identify them by their essence. I don't need the code word. The persona needs the code word. But the self, the deeper part of you, doesn't. This creates a split. You have the social you, the persona, desperately trying to be polite and appropriate and integrated into society. And you have the animal you, the self, which simply does not care about the label. It cares about the reality. The tension between these two causes the mental glitch. Have you ever noticed that you almost never forget a piece of gossip? If someone whispers, "That guy over there cheated on his taxes," you will remember that fact forever. The information has emotional charge. It has survival value. It tells you something about the trustworthiness of the tribe member, the consequences of trusting them. The name Steve has zero survival value. Your brain is ruthlessly efficient. It only keeps what keeps you alive or gives you an advantage. Take a pause for a moment and think about the last time this happened to you, when you forgot someone's name. What was happening in that moment? Was it at a networking event? A family gathering? A date? A professional conference? A chance meeting on the street? I'm willing to bet something specific was true. I'm willing to bet that the exact moment you forgot the name was the exact moment you started worrying about what you were going to say next. This is the ego inflation trap. When your ego inflates to fill the room, there is no space for the other person. You're not listening. You're waiting to speak. You're rehearsing your lines. You're planning your response. You're thinking about how to steer the conversation toward topics where you're knowledgeable. You're thinking about how to appear interesting or impressive or competent. The other person becomes a prop. They become a stage. They become an audience for the movie of your life that's playing in your mind. And while that internal movie is running, you're completely absent from the actual interaction. Jung called this state of consciousness ego inflation. It's when the ego inflates to such a degree that it creates a barrier between you and reality, between you and the other person. You become impenetrable. Information bounces off you. It doesn't land. Here's what's fascinating. Some of you watching this are probably thinking, I remember faces perfectly, but names are impossible. While others are thinking, I can remember the name, but I wouldn't recognize them in a lineup. It's rarely both. This split, this difference in what sticks and what doesn't, is a huge clue into how your internal wiring works. It tells you which cognitive function you're leading with, whether you're leading with sensation or intuition, whether you're leading with feeling or thinking. And it tells you something about where your attention actually lives. Is your attention living in your own head, in your own internal narrative, or is it living in the external world, in the actual presence of other people? The answer to that question changes everything about how you approach this problem. Because one of the great paradoxes of human connection is this: the moment you stop trying to be interesting and start being interested, your memory channels open up. The moment you stop trying to impress and start being genuinely curious about the mystery of the stranger standing in front of you, everything changes. But there's another dimension to chronic name forgetting that's worth exploring. Jung noticed something that made him uncomfortable. He suggested that chronic forgetfulness, not just of names, but of appointments, of keys, of promises, of details in general, is a sign of something he called psychic entropy. It means your energy is not flowing outward into the world, it's flowing inward. It's getting trapped in a loop of internal dialogue. You're so consumed by your own inner world, by your own daydreams or your own anxieties or your own narratives, that the outer world is becoming ghost-like. People are becoming phantoms. You shake their hand, but you're not really there. You're a ghost in the room. This dissociation is a defense mechanism. It's a protection against a world that feels too overwhelming. By not learning names, you're keeping the world at arm's distance. You're preventing intimacy. Because once you name something, you have a relationship with it. Names create connection. They create responsibility. They create relationship. If you keep people nameless, they remain strangers, and strangers cannot hurt you. This is the defense of the introverted feeling type. The sensitive person protecting a core that feels vulnerable to the world's harshness. It's not stupidity. It's not laziness. It's armor. But like all armor, it's heavy. It isolates you. It creates a reality where you are the only protagonist and everyone else is a blur. Everyone else is secondary. Everyone else is less real. And eventually, this leads to a profound sense of unreality, a feeling that you're drifting through life without ever actually grabbing hold of it, without ever being truly present, without ever connecting. People report this. They say, I feel like I'm watching my life from the outside. I don't feel real. Nothing feels quite solid. I'm going through the motions, but I'm not actually here. This is the shadow side of name forgetting. This is what happens when the mechanism that once protected you becomes a prison. Jung's solution to this wasn't memory games, it wasn't mnemonic devices, it wasn't repeating the name 10 times or using visualization tricks, though those can help at the surface level. His solution was deeper. He told his patients to wake up. He told them to look at why they were rejecting the world. He told them to integrate the shadow, to face the parts of themselves they were running from. He told them that the only way out of dissociation is through conscious engagement with reality, not through force or willpower, but through a genuine shift in how they relate to the world and other people. The name, ultimately, is just a symbol. But the act of remembering the name, that's a symbolic act of presence, of choosing to acknowledge that another consciousness exists besides your own, of choosing to step out of the island of self and into relationship. So how do we actually fix this? How do we use Jungian psychology to hack our own resistance and actually start remembering? The answer might disappoint you at first, because it requires a shift in consciousness, not a trick. It requires a fundamental reorientation of how you relate to other people and the world. Jung wasn't interested in surface-level hacks. He was interested in transformation. The transformation requires moving from the persona, the mask, the performance, to the self, the center, the integrated whole. When you operate from the self, you are no longer performing. You are witnessing. The witness remembers everything because the witness is not defending anything. The witness is not trying to protect the ego. The witness is not anxious about the impression being made. The witness simply sees, and seeing is recording, and recording is memory. This is what Jung called the flow of libido. Not sexual energy, psychic energy. The movement of your conscious attention and emotional investment. When your libido is stuck in your own head, worrying about your impression, trying to manage how you appear, the bridge to the other person is broken. The connection cannot form. The name cannot stick. But when you push that energy outward, when you genuinely become curious about the mystery of the stranger standing in front of you, everything shifts. The name sticks effortlessly. But getting there requires work. It requires catching yourself in the moment of withdrawing. The next time you're in a social interaction, pay attention. Notice the moment when you start worrying about what you're going to say next. Notice the moment when your attention shifts from the other person to yourself. Notice the moment when you're no longer listening, but waiting to speak. In that moment, you have a choice. You can continue down the path of ego inflation, or you can consciously choose to re-engage. You can say to yourself, I'm drifting away. I'm judging this person as irrelevant or unimportant. Right now, in this moment, I'm choosing to come back. I'm choosing to be present with this human being. That moment of radical honesty is powerful. By bringing the rejection from the shadow into the light, you disarm it, you make it conscious. And what's conscious, you can work with. What's conscious, you can change. Here's a tactical shift. Stop treating the name as a label. Start treating it as a symbol. Jungians know that the unconscious mind thinks in symbols, images, and myths, not in text. Text is left brain, literal, abstract. But symbols bypass the rational mind and speak directly to the unconscious. So here's the counterintuitive strategy, especially for intuitive types. Don't try to remember the sound of the name. Visualize it. If you meet someone named Rose, don't store the letters R-O-S-E in your memory. Immediately flash an image in your mind's eye. A red rose, a garden, petals, the smell of the flower, the color. Make it vivid, make it real. If you meet someone named Mark, imagine a check mark stamped on his forehead, or a target, or the mark of Cain. Make the image weird, make it memorable, make it stick through its strangeness. If you meet someone named Claire, imagine light, luminosity, clarity, a clear sky, a clear lens. This works because you're translating a boring left brain audit, the word, into a vibrant right brain archetype, the image. You're speaking the language of your unconscious. You're hacking the gatekeeper. By giving the name visual weight, you're telling your primitive brain, this is not just noise, this is not arbitrary, this is a totem, this is important, this is marked for storage, and it works. But there's a deeper level of work that has to happen simultaneously. Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. In other words, you have to face the part of you that simply doesn't care about other people's names. You have to confront the part of yourself that wants to remain alone on the island. Next time you meet someone and you feel that familiar fog rolling in, that dissociation, that sense of checking out, catch yourself in the moment. Admit to yourself, right now, I am drifting away. I am judging this person as irrelevant. I am protecting myself from connection. I am choosing isolation over engagement. That moment of radical honesty is where transformation begins. By bringing the rejection from the shadow into the light, you disarm it, you make it conscious, and the shadow loses its power over you the moment you shine light on it. Then you can consciously choose something different. You can say to yourself, I am going to honor this person's existence by holding on to their name. I am going to practice being present. I am going to choose connection over protection. It becomes a spiritual practice, a discipline of the soul, not forced, not artificial, not out of social obligation, but out of a genuine decision to expand your consciousness, to include another human being in your world, to step off the island. And remember synchronicity. Jung believed there are no accidents. Who is to say that the person whose name you're about to forget isn't the exact messenger you need in your life right now? Maybe they're the person who will offer you an opportunity. Maybe they're the person who will change your perspective. Maybe they're the person who will become a dear friend. Maybe they're the teacher your soul needs. By dismissing them, by letting their identities slip through your fingers like sand, you might be missing a vital piece of your own puzzle. Now let's get specific about what this actually looks like in practice. Because understanding the psychology is one thing, applying it is another. For the intuitive types, your challenge is that you're oriented toward abstract patterns and underlying structures. Names feel trivial. The person's essence matters. The name is just noise. Here's your framework. Step 1. Consciously assign the name symbolic weight. Create a meaning when you hear the name. Create an association that connects it to something deeper. James equals strength and reliability. Jessica equals grace or femininity or brightness. Use the etymology if it helps. Step 2. Connect the name to a quality you observe in the person immediately. Link them together. This is Marcus, and he's got this intensity. Marcus, marking, intense, marked by intensity. Create a narrative connection between the name and a trait. Step 3. Ask yourself consciously, what would this person offer me? What could I learn from them? What potential does this interaction hold? This grounds the person in relevance for your intuitive brain. You're looking for the pattern, the meaning, the future possibility. Step 4. Notice the moment you start to drift, the moment the interaction feels unimportant. Catch yourself, re-engage, make a conscious choice to extend your awareness beyond your inner world. For the sensation types, your challenge is the opposite. You're so engaged with the sensory world that the abstract sound of the name gets lost. You remember the texture but forget the label. Here's your framework. Step 1. Deliberately create a multisensory anchor for the name. See it. Say it out loud. Repeat it 3 times. Let the sound land in your body. Step 2. Pair the name with a sensory detail. This is Robert, and he's wearing a blue tie. Connect the audio, the name, with the visual or tactile. Your brain loves connecting sensory inputs. Step 3. Ask permission to use the name again. So Robert, tell me more about... Use the name consciously in the conversation. The repetition and the sensory engagement of speaking it aloud will lock it in. Step 4. Create a mnemonic device. Robert reminds me of Robert Frost, the poet. Red. This guy feels earthy, like Frost's poetry. For both types, the foundational practice is this: presence. Before every social interaction, take 30 seconds, ground yourself, feel your body, notice your breath. Notice your tendency to either withdraw into your mind, intuitive, or get caught in sensory overwhelm, sensation. Then set an intention. In this interaction, I'm going to be present. I'm going to practice remembering this person's name as a sign of respect for their existence. Not forced, not performative, a genuine commitment in the interaction itself. When they introduce themselves, do 3 things. 1. Make eye contact and mentally repeat the name. 2. Create the image or the sensory connection immediately. 3. Use the name at least once in the conversation. After the conversation, mentally review: did I remember the name? If not, what was I thinking about instead? What pulled my attention away? This isn't about self-judgment. It's about awareness. It's about noticing the pattern. The most important practice is shadow work. Once a week, reflect on the people whose names you forgot. Notice patterns. Did they activate a projection? Did they trigger a complex? Did they seem irrelevant to your goals? Did they make you uncomfortable? Bring these patterns into consciousness. Don't fight them, just observe them. The shadow loses its power the moment you look at it directly. And here's the final piece: synchronicity. Start paying attention to unexpected connections. The person whose name you were about to forget, who ends up becoming a close friend. The chance encounter that led somewhere significant. The conversation that changed your perspective. Start noticing these moments, because they're not accidents. And the more you notice them, the more your psyche begins to assign weight to the random interactions. The more your brain begins to understand, this person matters. Even though I don't know why yet, they matter. There's something else worth understanding here. This phenomenon of forgetting names isn't random. It's actually revealing something profound about our moment in history. We live in an age of unprecedented distraction. Our attention is fractured across multiple channels. Our nervous systems are in constant sympathetic activation. We're processing more information in a day than humans 100 years ago processed in a year. And in this context, name forgetting isn't just personal, it's collective. Studies have shown that name remembering has declined across cultures as technology has increased. As we've become more dependent on phones to store contact information, our brains have actually started outsourcing the function. We don't have to remember names anymore. The phone remembers. But something shifts in the psyche when we don't encode information ourselves. There's neuroscientific research showing that the act of encoding, the active process of taking in information and storing IT, creates neural pathways. It creates connection. It creates presence. When we outsource the remembering to technology, we lose something. We lose the integration. We lose the relationship building that happens in the brain when we make the effort. Jung would argue that we're losing something even deeper. We're losing the spiritual practice of witnessing, because to remember another person's name is to make them real. It's to acknowledge their existence as separate from your own. It's to create a relationship. And in a world where we're increasingly isolated, increasingly mediated through screens, increasingly lost in our own internal narratives, the simple act of remembering someone's name becomes a radical practice. It becomes an act of rebellion against the culture of distraction. It becomes a commitment to presence. So here's what we've uncovered. You forget names not because you're broken. You forget because your brain is prioritizing survival, emotion, and essence over bureaucratic labels. You forget because your psyche is protecting you from information that doesn't seem relevant. You forget because you're either too wrapped up in the performance of meeting someone or too detached from the sensory world. You forget because of complexes, projections, and shadow activations. You forget because you're operating on ancient software in a modern world. And sometimes you forget as a form of spiritual armor, keeping the world at arm's length to protect a vulnerable core. But here's what matters. You have the capacity to remember everyone. You have the neurological capability. But first, you have to decide. You have to decide to leave the island of self. You have to be willing to drop the mask. You have to silence the noise of your own anxiety. You have to step into the reality of the other person. The next time someone introduces themselves, take a breath. Look them in the eye. Ignore your own internal monologue. See the human being, not the social obligation. Turn their name into an image, into a symbol, into meaning. And watch how your memory, which you thought was terrible, suddenly becomes a steel trap. It was never about capacity. It was always about connection. It was always about presence. It was always about the choice to step out of your own mind and into the world. The world is full of characters, and every single one of them has a name that unlocks a story. Don't let those stories fade into the background noise.